I'm going to call the Urban Renewal Commission to order. And can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Mum?
Here.
Commissioner Yates? Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Edgar?
Here.
Commissioner Neely?
Here.
Commissioner Pauly?
Here.
Chair Roth?
Here. Okay, do we have any citizen comments? Okay. So, adoption of the agenda. Anybody have anything they want corrected or changed or pulled or? No? Okay.
Move to accept.
No motion needed. We don't need to do that, do we?
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Good thinking.
Want to get going?
Yeah.
Eric, you have some things to talk to us about these
Just
criteria?
a few, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Madam Chair. The first item are revisions to the storefront grant and adaptive reuse grant programs, both the process and the criteria. This was, I believe I mentioned this to the Commission when we first got the ball rolling on the adaptive reuse grant, saying that we would evaluate it, and evaluate the process, and come back with some ways to make it work a little better, smooth out the process, and make it efficient for both the reviewers and the applicant. So we've done that, but we've done that with both programs. I'll just give you a couple of brief statistics on the program. The storefront grant program began in fiscal year 04-05. The Urban Renewal Commission approved the initial adaptive reuse grant program in April of 2012 prior to its implementation in June. Each program has been very successful. The storefront grant program has awarded $162,500 since fiscal year 11-12, so that's just basically about 18 months. And the adaptive reuse grant program has awarded $210,000, and that's since June. The programs have leveraged private investments within the Urban Renewal District of approximately $195,200 and $634,000 respectively. So what I would like to do tonight is just kind of go over some of the changes that we've made in our evaluation. We did a pretty comprehensive evaluation, again, of the criteria and the process, and we can take some time, ask any questions you'd like. I can try to answer them, and we'll just go through it kind of step by step. I would like to point out some of the key areas where we did make some modifications. We made a lot of corrections for clarity purposes, so you'll see that as we go through. We wanted to have a match clarification. You'll see that where we've included kind of a ratio. We'd like for them to calculate the ratio and make sure that we get a one-to-one match for each program. We've established grant periods for application submittal. There's some process modifications. There's a staff site visit requirement that we've included. Disbursement of funds, there's a proposed policy there, as well as the awarded grant funds. Some criteria for non-performance, general areas of redundancy, so we've eliminated some of those. And we've worked on the evaluation criteria as well. That's our scoring sheet. And we wanted to include some language on the adaptive reuse program objective. So if we could just start with the storefront grant program application. I think you have that as an attachment. And I would like to point out that the items that are highlighted and italicized are additions, and the ones that have the strike through, of course, are eliminations. So for the first page of the application, we've included owner information. We thought that was, because sometimes we have an applicant that applies that doesn't necessarily own the building.
That's
good.
I like that.
So we've asked for the owner information as well. It was a little confusing down at the bottom of the page where it just said grant information. That's a little more general than we had wanted, I think. So we added the word request in there. We did have a brief description of the proposed project that was in that last box, but that's moved to a later section in the application where they can give more of a description. If we turn to the second page, we've included the Well, it says source of matching funds, but we also would like to see the amount of matching funds listed in the application, as well as the ratio, the private to public match. And then, some of these grants are coming in where we know that they've leveraged additional grant funds from another source. So we'd like to see that too, and how that matches up with their private investment, and how we're going to be spending our money.
You mean user grants in addition to the things they list here under amount, source, and matching funds?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Well, you said they may have already brought in some grants. Did I understand you right?
Well, like we're working with Metro now. We've leveraged $120,000 from Metro to help us augment some of our
okay.
projects. And so we'd just like to see where those other sources are. Like there was a Diamonds in the Rough grant.
Just to clarify, I'm a little confused.
Which page
These-
are you on?
I'm on the second page.
On the second page, this is somebody, they are filling out this form.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is the app.
Would they know how much money? Are they requesting separately money from, for example, the Metro? Is that what you're asking?
Right. They should have an idea of where they're receiving other sources of funds.
Okay.
So
So we're clarifying whether it's their money or some.
Or somebody
right,
else's.
Yeah,
exactly.
and I think
Right.
there's two that we have tonight that have other money, right?
Right.
What is that's what's in the box here, amount and source of additional grants or funding? Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the amount and source of matching funds versus the amount and source of additional grants and funding, we would not regard those grants as matching funds?
We shouldn't.
Well, that's something that
That's
we
something we have
probably
to
need to decide.
Okay.
So that's not stated anywhere in the criteria. So we look for a 50-50 match, 1-to-1 match. And it doesn't specify that the 1-to-1 has to come from private funds.
I guess the question is, clear to the applicant, because it's not that clear to me, what the difference between who they're listing as a source of matching funds and who they're listing as a source of additional grants or funding. Is it clear to the applicant that these are two completely separate categories?
That's a good question. It may not be. We were looking at the amount and source of just the total of what they have, and then breaking it down further by additional. But that's something that we might need to go in and kind of reword a little bit just to
Okay.
make it clearer.
You know what I'm thinking of is you've got it listed here, amount and source of matching funds, and then you've got ratio there, and then you've got the additional grants. If you just did that maybe as a column, and then down at the bottom put total,
Okay,
that might make it more clear.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Like we do in the Metro Enhancement Grants. and
Right.
other ones.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so too.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, it's can be easily done. Sure. Okay, if there are no more questions about that, I'll move on to the next box down. Rather than just having design as the heading, where we're looking for applicant for architectural information, we just asked for architect information. Just seems a lot clearer. So,
I agree.
and then we have the additional space for the project summary. And so the next box after the project summary, what we've done is just included the checklist that they can go in and just mark off the boxes as they go down. This was not up front in the application. It was further buried in the criteria, and it wasn't really that clear, so we just wanted to bring it up front just to make sure that they knew they had everything before they submitted the application. A couple of additions that we've added to the checklist. If you look in that box there that's highlighted, you'll see 2 dark bullet points, sub-bullets. If you go down 2 more where it says copy of current Oregon City business license,
Oh, I love it. Yes.
we want to make sure they're legal.
Good idea.
Good.
I
So-
love it. That's great.
And also, we want to make sure they're current on their taxes and other payments to the city too before we hand out funds for a project.
I saw that, Eric, and I noticed on one of the grants, they don't seem to be.
On one of the awarded grants, right? So we've been working with that applicant to get those
And I was
cleared
just
up.
looking in here to see if that was a stipulation, and it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, that was. I guess that was kind of an oversight on our part, but we caught it before we issued the payment, and so we've been working with them to get that cleared up before we
Thank
make
you.
the actual payment.
Okay, thank you.
And then we've added, if the applicant other than an individual, evidence of authorization to enter into a grant agreement. Bylaws, we had kind of an issue with that with 722 Main and their adaptive reuse, where they didn't quite own the building yet, but they were wanting to work to do the project. And then providing a statement, the next one below that one, providing a statement on the source of project funding that includes the required 50%, and we added private match and other funds that may be applicable to undertake the balance of the work, not funded by the URC. And we state how we would accept that. Any questions? Any of that? Okay.
No, I'll wait.
Okay. The paragraph below that box is just a rewording. We thought it sounded maybe a little clearer. So that's all that is. At the sentence below that paragraph, we've changed the 30 days to 5 days because it's really hard to, I mean, a lot of times these applications come in, the applicants are ready to start the project, and it's hard to require them to put up a sign 30 days prior to beginning their project. So we figure 5 days would be enough. After they're awarded, they can immediately put up the sign and stage on the site and get the project started. That would happen readily within 5 days. So, and then 5 days after, we just thought for consistency purposes, rather than try to confuse the matter, 5 days is a good time to display that. Okay, moving on. The next document would be the scoring sheet or our evaluation sheet.
Eric,
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming, well, I shouldn't.
I did that once.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem really with the 5 days before and after, assuming the sign's there the entire time of the project, that they're working on it.
Right.
I'm not sure that really says that. I think you could read that and say, as long as the sign's up 5 days before and 5 days after. I mean, should we just say from?
5 days.
Am I
From
During the-
from 5 days before to 5 days after.
okay? Does it?
And during the project.
It says during.
Prior to, during, and yes. Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
It does.
Yes, that is important.
Okay.
Now, that was just the grant application.
That was just the
correct?
application.
And so where did you solicit information for making these changes? Did you talk to the grantees
It was
and
just-
get their input?
It was just questions that we had with the applicants throughout the process.
Okay.
So
And
just
didn't we
notes
suggest
made.
some of them too?
Yeah.
I think
I'm
some of
sorry.
some of them came
Yeah.
from this committee.
Yes,
Right.
they did.
Right.
They did.
I always want to make
absolutely.
sure that the ones that actually went through the paperwork actually got an opportunity to
Yeah. So
express their opportunities and challenges
Yeah,
with
so
the process.
most of these changes came from the applicants.
Okay.
You know, just questioning the process in,
Okay.
in the application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So does everybody have the evaluation sheet up? Okay.
The storefront evaluation sheet. Okay.
Yes. And so I guess on the old evaluation sheet under item A, building design and context, we had outdoor space, but you know, really, what does that mean? So it says outdoor space, and then the description was designed for a variety of activities. That was very ambiguous. We didn't know what that meant really, and it's hard to evaluate for that. So we defined it a little more clearly. Designed for a variety of activities and creates a street dialogue, which I think, if you recall that term from
Metro.
the presentation that we had from, I forget her name, Lisa, what was her name? Michelle
Yeah.
Reeves, yes.
That doesn't mean to graffiti.
No.
That one doesn't count.
When you have this dialogue, how do you guarantee the street's going to answer?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you just can't guarantee that.
It's a one-way street.
It's a one-way dialogue.
No, it's not. It's a two-way street.
And you thought you were talking.
Yeah,
Being very fast.
yeah. All right. Okay, so down, further down, item D, where the heading is roofs, we have rooftop integrated with building design. However, in our criteria for the storefront, rooftops are not considered as a viable project.
Right.
So we eliminated that.
Okay.
And item E in lighting, streetlights. No project applicant is going to be responsible for streetlights. That's the Public Works issue. So they'd be in the public right of way. Landscape lights, we eliminated that because landscaping is not eligible
Right.
for a
Not
grant.
what we do.
Right, right. Signs, temporary signs. We don't allow the temporary signs for the businesses, so we have eliminated that as well. Item J, where it says previous recipient. In the old evaluation sheet, it states encourage new recipients if previous recipient reference previous project success. So that was confusing to us. So we tried to break it down a little bit. We scored it a little bit differently. The way we had that, we judge in a range between 0 and 5, and so, how do you give that really a score, 0 and 5, when it's encourage new recipients? So we broke it down into previous recipient, and the description is past project successes. So we can score that in a range. So how successful were their past projects if they were a previous recipient? On item K, we give them bonus points, an automatic 5 points if they're a new applicant.
Now that is new, right?
That's new.
Yeah.
These are added.
That is good.
Yeah, that is good.
And as we move further into this program, we're looking toward 99E and those frontages. So we thought it'd be a good idea to add 5 extra bonus points for frontage on 99E.
Because we haven't had any applicant
Right.
that have frontage.
Yeah.
So that
Right.
would be- yeah.
That'd be great.
Eric, in these points amounts here, past success, you add 5 points. New projects, you add 5 points. It just literally balances itself out.
Well, the past success is a 0 to 5, so it's a range. So it's how we determine their success, their projects in the past. How successful were they?
And then it would end, and then if they're a new applicant, then they get 5 extra points.
So those the K and the L are just a bonus round, basically. So just bonus points. And then leveraging of additional funds. So we look at leveraging as a good thing, where they're bringing in more money to the project, which means it's going to be a better project overall. And so we can score that in a range, and you see that broken down there in the description of how we would evaluate that.
I really like this. I think you did a nice job
Yes.
on it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Rocky?
In the past, we've had a lot of discussion about signs. So I want to bring that back again. The discussion in the past, I wanted to know is the program we had. We kind of had a separate program for signs that stepped away from the storefront grants at one point in time, and I think that was just on that 1 year, where we took a set of the storefront grant money and partnered with Main Street to fund certain new signage, but that was kind of pulled out. My concern with signage being with the storefront grant and the problems in the past is especially when the signs are business specific, when the building owner is separate from the property owners, or the business owner, and the business leaves, and we've put storefront grants into signage for a building or for a business that's not there anymore. And the same is the flack that we essentially got from, or this commission at one point got from the Black Point too, was the awnings. And putting awnings up on a building, fine. Putting awnings on a building with signage, not okay, in my opinion, because the signage is specific to a business that may or may not be there. So I'm not sure I think to some degree signage is a very important thing, and what we did with that program, what was it, a year ago? It started the change of some signs downtown, which now is actually happening kind of on its own. I see with the storefront grants, some of the businesses are changing their signage on their buildings on their own. So I think some of that is happening. I think I'd feel more comfortable if we wanted to do more work improving signs, that might be something we pull out separate from the storefront grant, because of those issues. I don't know what all of you think on that, but I'm not sure it fits within this.
So basically, you're talking about another grant program for the signs and another line item?
And maybe not. Maybe we don't need to deal with signs at all. But I know what we did was we granted, wasn't it one storefront grant? I'm trying to remember. I think we granted Main Street basically one storefront grant, and they used that money with leverage from some other matching funds to distribute to businesses on Main Street that wanted to improve their signage. I don't have a problem with that if we want to continue to do that, and maybe that's not a discussion we need to have now, but at least for the way that our storefront projects are right now, I don't think the sign should be a part of that. And if we want to discuss how signs are a part of it, because I know the sign code is going to be one of the things that it's going to be a focus to, so that might have some say in what we do.
Well, we could also say in here, can we say something about we don't want to provide money for a business name on a sign?
Right, and I think we could be more specific. If it's a sign that's saying such and such building and it stays there, then I have no problem with that. Yeah.
I think
So
the way
maybe signs that aren't specific, that maybe if they're part of the architecture
Right.
and
Right.
frame,
Right.
but not.
So however we can communicate that.
I think the way we looked at this when we get to the sign issue is the design elements of the sign. We realize that every building that's going to do a facade improvement is going to have some sort of sign because the business is going in there. So we're looking at the design elements and whether or not it's consistent with the rest of downtown, if it fits the character, that sort of thing.
Then I have an addition that I think fits in this category, and that is murals. We've already lost one mural. We might lose another one soon, which is actually a loss already. But I don't necessarily want to see us lose all of our murals downtown, and hopefully we at some point start repairing them and adding new ones. So I think it might be great to have a piece in here that addresses extra points for buildings that
Keep or maintain.
they are saving the mural as part of their storefront grant as part of their proposal. I think that's important. So that would be something I would think about.
I kind of saw that with the wall signs. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
What does a wall sign mean to you, Eric?
A wall sign is basically what's actually being proposed in the first application to me. So it's just painted on
But
the
yes,
wall.
I think if they're going to
Eric,
have,
are you speaking
if
to
they're
your
going
mic?
to.
Oh yeah, that's right. The wall sign. If you look at the First City Cycles, their sign on the
Yes,
10th Street
right.
side,
Right.
that's what I would consider a wall sign.
So I just want a way to give some incentive for the buildings that are coming for storefront grants to save murals if there are murals on their buildings.
Okay.
Some cases it's not going to happen. Like the one where the murals are painted directly on the building,
Mhm.
sometimes it's not going to be able to be saved.
Right.
And in some cases we maybe can, but and I don't necessarily think I'm I'm actually in favor, in some degree, I think, of giving money as part of a storefront grant to save the murals, if that's part of their plan.
Okay, I have to recognize Mr. Edgar actually used the speaker thing.
I usually.
Rocky's
Sorry.
usually the one that's on top
I'm
of that.
usually the one complaining about it, but I have the the problem is I have the document open, so I can't.
Rocky's like, Betty,
There's a point that I would like to have in there, and this comes back to something that I've been hearing from Rocky and others here. It's called the authenticity. And we have, remember how we've talked about, like at the Bank of Commerce building, getting the columns back in, and or when we got into glass and creating,
The windows.
bringing the windows back to where we connected to the authenticity of the historic building, and when somebody reaches out and goes over and does this should be truly rewardable points.
Yeah, but
And how we identify that into here.
I think it is. I think Section A is
I was
all
gonna
about
say-
that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm concerned that it's how we.
It could be more specific, maybe.
Yeah.
But
It's about.
Well,
It's this point of authenticity, though.
It's-
It's how, it's something that when we achieve it.
maybe if we clarify the language a little bit.
Yeah.
In
Yes.
A, item 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Since
say four,
Yeah.
compatibility
that's
slash
not-
authenticity.
it's if a specific building has such as each individual building has their own unique characteristic that makes it
Right.
that building historically that building. And in the case of the Commerce Bank of Commerce building, the columns and the windows, or some of those buildings have key elements that should be there.
Or there could be another one added. You have historic building compatibility respects original structure. What if you also had restores original attributes or
Element,
features?
Elements.
architectural
Elements.
elements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elements
so
would
you
be-
have
I
one
think you
for
could add-
restoring and what, because respecting
Right.
the
Yeah.
original structure,
But ag-
restoring is different.
But again, I look at this as truly a very high point value. Where it's almost a bonus round type of thing because that's really one of our most desired thing is to try to rebuild the authenticity of Main Street with these grants. And when we have somebody that achieves that at a higher level, that to me is really a very bonus round item.
Right, and I think it's really important to also differentiate between structure and other elements. Because if people want to be just a purist, they could say, well, that sign's not part of the structure. I painted on the wall,
Right.
So,
Yes, so because the
Commissioner.
interest is so strong, the interest is so strong, do we want to award it more than 5 points?
Yeah, and to me, it should be. If we find somebody that's really walking that extra mile, and giving us that greater authenticity and greater ambiance to our downtown, then I think we should be making sure that they're rewarded.
Commissioner.
I wouldn't have a problem adding points to it specifically, but we also, even if we don't, we as a commission have the flexibility to flat out say, if you do this, we'll give you more money.
We've got a good example sitting here.
And we've done that. So I think,
I don't know.
if it comes down to a specific
Yeah.
element that we want, we'll write a check if they,
Can do it.
Yeah.
Then we'll do it.
So I think I'm not so sure that we need to bump it up so much because
It's part of the statement, though, that we're making to them up front about the importance that that this is to us.
right.
I would say you don't want this form to design the project.
No.
Yeah.
Take
Right.
the creativity of the applicant.
Right.
Yeah.
Simply want
absolutely.
it to be a guideline to reflect your values.
Right.
You're still going to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
I think.
But I still think that we need to respect original structure and elements rather than just structure.
Okay.
You want to say architecture.
Well,
That covers everything.
does that cover
That
signs
covers
painted on the side of the
Yeah,
building?
it does,
Yeah.
I think.
So respect original architecture?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
And so you don't want another item then, like number 6?
I think it's okay.
I think it's okay.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Excellent work.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Well, we've got
Did
more.
we? Sorry. Did we get? What were we going to do? The discussion or the question about the murals. Were we going to try to maybe put that in there, or glump, or
well,
you know? Did I actually say it?
He's been on vacation.
That came from Oregon City High School. Is that? Are we just going to put that in that category?
Well, from the
Of
conversation that we just
Or are
had,
we
I
gonna come
kind of
back?
listed it as a bonus.
Okay.
So like 5-point bonus if they're
Perfect.
wanting to restore a mural.
And then we're maybe take the signage out of it, or
I think the signage is okay as long as we're not putting it in a business name.
okay, we already have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's we're going to leave it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be a lower point value.
Just
too,
specify
besides.
that it's for. Yeah.
It's not for the business, it's
Okay.
for the
Do
building.
you substitute for English?
Okay.
I'm an art teacher.
I know.
Okay. So now we move on to the storefront criteria, where it's the document that's called Storefront Improvement Program Application Process and Requirements.
Got it.
So there was a question earlier about the one-to-one match being private, or does that mix in with other public sources? You know, we kind of took the liberty to put private in here because we're wanting the private sector to invest just as much as the public sector. That was our thinking, as I recall our thought process here on that.
I believe you're-
So if the commission's in agreement with that, then we can make that clearer on the application. That needs to be
I
a
think
private
that would be
match.
good. Yeah.
Okay. So that was in where it says maximum grant amount, we added the word private. If you move down that first page where it says grant application process, we've added the addition of meeting with the economic development manager before applying for the grant, and then having a pre-application meeting with the community development department or director. We've also asked for 5 complete copies because it's better if they bring those copies in rather than we're evaluating all of these. We don't want to be making all kinds of copies as well. And we've added we've kind of just brought out the checklist and making awareness of that by stating please use this as a checklist. So it's in the criteria. It's on the application. It's in the criteria the same way. Let's see. And just these other additions are just clarification, like a detailed written description for the project. If we move on to page 2, if the grant request is over $5,000, the applicant must submit official architectural and engineering renderings, drawings from a licensed architect. Now, before we had stamped architectural drawings. Well, a lot of times when they're applying for these grants, they're not at that stage. And so, as long as they're official, I think if they're signed or something.
Commissioner Neely?
No, I was confused. I think I confused myself about the wording. It's fine.
A lot of times when we're reviewing the applications, we're reading the narrative, but it still doesn't really give us a visual of the materials and the colors. So we've asked for a material spec board or color board with the application. So that makes it a lot more efficient, so we don't have to go back and ask that kind of thing. Project costs and budget, including but not limited to construction expenses, fees, permits, and design costs. Construction schedule, sometimes that's in there, sometimes it's not. We wanted to include it in the checklist to make sure it is. Land use approval, calling attention to the fact that sometimes land use approval is needed. And historic review board approval if needed.
Commissioner Lee?
Yeah, I got to go back to the point that I was confused on the reading of it, and I'm going to come back to it. If grant request is over $5,000, the applicant must submit official architectural and engineered renderings. The way it is there, it says, well, gee, I just keep it under 5,000, I don't have to go through this step. I wonder if there could be some indication that there would be the possibility that the applicant could include as part of the grant request reimbursement of an architect.
Interesting.
Now, we had a case, although it was a little different. It's the one I think that Commissioner Smith was referring to with the Bank of Commerce, and we indicated that we would give them additional $2,000 for the architect. But, you know, if this becomes a point where somebody says, well, yeah, I like an architect, but I don't want to spend that extra money, that potential of doing so might be there.
Well, there's a statement in the criteria saying that this grant program does not pay for soft costs such as architectural fees. And so that would have to change.
Eric, isn't there alternatives that are reasonable, that are not licensed architects, that are high-level design people?
Well,
are we too tight when we just say that it has to be a licensed architect?
I think we're covering ourselves if we're asking for licensed architects. I mean, there's liability there, I think, if they're using someone that's not licensed,
Yeah.
and we're offering public funds. So I think that could be an
They
issue.
have to be licensed since it's public funds, in my opinion.
Okay. If I could, any more questions on that piece? Okay. Moving on. Again, some more terms for clarification. Applicant must provide a statement. And the grants for over 20, this is item B, for grants over $20,000, the applicant must demonstrate how the proposed improvements will restore the facade to its original design with the following. The submittal of the best available information, including photographs of similar buildings designed by the same architect. So that's just an item of clarification. Once a complete application package is received, there will be a minimum of 30 days to proceed as follows. And so we kind of draw out the timeline here. We review the application. We want to make clear that it's for completeness only, that initial review. And then we route the application to city staff. We then schedule a site visit with city staff, the review committee. And then we conduct our staff review meeting for the project and then place on a scheduled Urban Renewal Commission agenda. So those are new items that we felt the applicant should be aware of, get a better idea of the process. Item 5, you'll see the elimination of letter B. That item, we considered that redundant, and we moved it into the checklist for 3A. If you turn to page 3, again, we have the 5 days prior, during, and post project. And then item 6, there's grant period, that's new. The storefront, we've been receiving a lot of applications throughout the year. And so each time we receive one or two, we have to reconvene the review committee. It takes a lot of our time, and we just thought that these applications do take a lot of time, especially if we're adding site visits and so forth. So we thought it would be more efficient to have just open windows, of 2 open windows throughout the year. 2 if there's money available after the first round. So we're thinking about doing it, so June 10th would be the first opening for the following fiscal year storefront grant. So we would have time to review the applications, make the recommendation, and have them on the agenda the first or second meeting of July so they don't miss the construction schedule, because the storefront grant, the projects are pretty dependent on the construction season, whereas the adaptive reuse aren't so much. And then again, if there's money available, we would open it up again for a couple of weeks in January, accept those applications. So they would have, by the time we would be through the process, it would probably be around March, and the construction schedule would just be or the season would just be coming about, and they would be able to start their project and finish by June 30th. So we have an addition there. The schedule allows for the first round of grants to fall during the construction season. Projects must be completed by June 30th of the fiscal year they were awarded. If a project is not complete by June 30th, year end of fiscal year, well, that should be then the grant award will reimburse for only those costs incurred on the project up to June 30th. There will be no extensions for funding beyond fiscal year end. So that's proposed language, so I just want to throw that out to the commission and get your feedback on that.
Those that are coming in on by June 10th will have a full year to complete it. Am I right?
Yes,
Yes, right.
Whereas those coming in January and July wouldn't, excuse me, those coming in January would not?
They only have 6 months or less.
So,
I mean, it might be just as good a project, you know.
yeah.
It may take just as long to complete it.
But
Right.
isn't that what currently is happening if people apply later in the year?
Yeah, it's just, if they have a really good project, something that's going to take a lot of time, and, if it's a big, complex project, then they would want to apply in the summer. So we're thinking, maybe we don't have as much money left over after the first round. We're looking at maybe some smaller projects, 1 or 2, and it's not going to take as much time. That was kind of our thinking. But
So I kind of want to be clear on this, if you don't mind. Round one, if I apply for a grant on February 10th and I want to start in, I don't know.
well, you would apply in January,
So my application would have to be completed by January.
in that window in January. That
To
2
get it
weeks.
in that fiscal year.
Yes. So we could have that time to do the site visit, the meetings, the pre-application, all of that, get it on the agenda, get it approved
So
by,
whereas today, if we applied in February, you would look at it in February.
Yes.
And process it.
yes.
And then they would have to be completed by June 30th. And so what you're.
Well, right now, they don't have to be completed by June 30th. That's new. And so what I've been doing is carrying over a lot of money because the projects aren't complete.
Yeah.
So this provides some incentive for them to complete the project. If they don't feel like they can complete the project in that window, I mean, this is all construction season. A lot of people aren't going to do construction on storefront from the end of October through February anyway. They're going to wait till March or April
Well,
to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So it provides some incentive for the more complex projects to come in June. If there's money left over, then the smaller projects can come in later in the year, fiscal year. What we're running into trouble with is Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all of that, and keeping that process going. So,
Commissioner Smith?
We've had this conversation a lot about the schedule and various times that we've gone through this, but I know Lloyd has been part of that discussion in the past, and he's like sending signals, but I don't understand them. And so I would like if Lloyd has some thoughts on this, I would love to hear them.
Yeah.
Do you have some thoughts on this, Lloyd?
2 thoughts.
I think you need to come up to the
My issue's the dates.
yeah.
For backing up, I was trying to, very consistent with what Eric's doing. 2 thoughts. The first is, I think it's absolutely right in trying to sync up this granting program with the construction season. I think we're in the construction season. So you might want to consider the first review happening February, March.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so back up 2 months maybe
Yes.
and get all that done so that on
Yeah.
May 15th, someone can get through that first window. That might just be a shifting of your dates for that first window. That's a strong idea, syncing up your review and your work with construction window. And then, I don't know, the second one is just from my perspective of dealing in private sector. cares if you're carrying over a balance from year to year? You got a great finance team, they can account for that, I think. Let's give people the 12-month cycle they might need. But that's just he hasn't heard that from me. I'm sorry to toss that out there right away, but I didn't know we were moving off of that 12-month cycle. That seems to be a good tool. So those are the two thoughts for you all maybe to consider along with everything Eric's proposing.
Yeah. Again, this is just proposed language, something that we feel would work, some structure that we thought would work pretty efficiently. We didn't go back any further than June because, before April, we're not certain of the budget, if it's going to be budgeted. And we wanted to make certain that it was, or fairly certain, that it was going to be budgeted for the next year.
Right.
So that's why we proposed the June date.
But possibly we could even move back 1 month.
Or 1 week.
We could move, we could do it
Get a week to come.
in the middle of April, May,
May.
1st of
May
May.
1st.
Yeah, we could go back that far probably.
So-
Consider funding projects based upon availability of funds if they happen, or is that too much worth not knowing if you'll have a budget?
I think people might want to move ahead,
Yeah.
May
Yeah.
1.
I would want to know, yeah.
Yeah, May 1, I hear
May
that,
1.
and I think that's a ringer.
Yeah, that can be done, sure,
Time to
yeah.
do your good-
Yeah, that gives us an idea of whether or not the budget's going to be approved or,
Okay, so.
That's when they start
yeah.
bringing them in.
I get the whole date thing. Okay, so these are storefront grants, correct?
Yes.
So we will not be issuing storefront grants any other dates besides the final date, the June 10th that we talked about, right?
Well,
If you put in a grant request.
we wouldn't be awarding any of those grants until after the first of the fiscal year when the budget is ratified.
These are application numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're gonna apply. I don't know, I just have an issue with putting dates in because I'm afraid it's gonna hinder the business. It's gonna slow the business person down. I don't know. That's just my own thoughts.
Commissioner Neely?
One benefit I see to actually having established certain dates, we'll have a better competitive capability of looking at the projects. They kind of dribble in, and we may end up giving some money and then have a better project, and we don't have any money.
Right.
So I think the benefit of that is we'll be looking at more than one project and actually being able to evaluate them against each other rather than the way we've been doing it on an individual project by project basis and then run out of money and have a good project
You
come.
don't have to wait 6 months.
Right.
You'll be back with another window.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of our thought process, is this definitely would make it more competitive. And it's just not a free grab.
Commissioner Polly?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's a sticking point for me, though, having different time allowances for the different rounds. You have one applicant that has a year, and the other ones have 6 months. So I think that makes it a little harder for businesses to.
Yeah. I think Lloyd's point of have the carryover.
We all do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to suggest one more thing. The good news is, whatever you all decide with the good guidance of Eric here, the private sector will respond and work with it. So as long as you make something that's consistent and fair to everybody on any given year or 2-year cycle, you can change the rules over time as long as we give everybody notice enough to understand how to work with the system you're laying out. And Eric's got a great system.
And one more thing too, if one is longer and one is shorter, and so that's kind of encouraging people to apply all at once and at one time, then we're gonna have lots of applications. I mean, I think it's good to have a bunch at one time, but if we have all of them at one time, that can be a little overwhelming.
Commissioner Neely?
That's true.
The other benefit, I think, of having the same length of time to get the project out is that some of us are now under the increasing housing market and so forth are having a little difficulty at time getting contractors to come out. And they may have a great project and they get the money and they just may not be able to get a quality contractor to do what they want to do.
Would there be a problem with giving everybody a 12-month window?
Yeah.
No.
No
not
matter
at
what
all,
date?
Not at all. If we have a window at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Where we get all the applications in at that time, rather than getting one in January, getting one in April,
Right.
getting one in May for that fiscal year.
Mhm.
That's going to be better. They'll have more time to complete their project. We can do the carryover. It's more easily managed that way, I think.
Okay.
I agree.
Look-
One challenge for this, I think it's pro and con. One challenge is not every property changes hands at the beginning of the year, and often this is an incentive for property reinvestment. We've got
I don't have
So-
the problem with the 2 dates. If we haven't allocated all the money in one round, and then 6 months later, we then
Right.
have it come forward, I think it's just whatever the starting date is, they've got a year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. So I'll just eliminate the June 30th date. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So how many applications do we get in a year's time?
Oh, well, let's see. I brought that sheet.
You can guess, it's like
No. So we got, in this fiscal year, we got 3 applications
for storefront.
for storefront.
Okay. All right, so I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on
And
that?
then I don't know, do we approve this tonight, or,
Yes.
so, I would like to say, I have an issue with the dates, but I would be willing to go with this if we could revisit in a year to make sure it's
I don't think
flowing, or
that'd-
2 years,
Yeah.
give it 2 years, because we have a 2-year budget now.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be constantly reevaluating this. If we see
Yeah.
problems, we'll bring it back.
Yeah. I just don't want to hinder businesses from doing, what they need to do.
Well, yeah, like David said, this is an ongoing, we'll be evaluating it each grant period and trying to make it better each year. Now, we've added a line below that paragraph that says, and this was one of the commission's recommendations, was applicants receiving funding through this program within the last 12 months are not eligible to apply the following fiscal year. That's a little contradictory to the practice of the commission, because we have awarded one applicant and have asked them to come back for the next, if there's more money,
That's true.
or for the next fiscal year.
That is true.
So-
I think we could have wording to that effect, though, that the commission has the capability
Yeah.
of doing that.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we should have the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unless
Based on the
otherwise.
project.
I mean, here they've got the criterion, but the commission is free to make that kind of a decision.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So I
Kind of a
don't know how
disclaimer.
you word that.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
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 Okay. Sounds good. So we'll work on that wordsmithing there.
Okay.
And then we wanted to point it out, if a grant is awarded and the building is sold during the grant period, the grant award is not transferable to the new owner.
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
I like that.
If we move down to general conditions, we've eliminated the 4th bullet because it's addressed in section 3A already. So it's duplicative. Next page, page 4, first bullet, we eliminated that because that's addressed in the grant period section. Down to disbursement of funds. We've eliminated the line that says work shall be consistent with the application and any changes must be approved by the city in advance. Changes that significantly affect the appearance or structural integrity of the improvements must be reviewed by the Urban Renewal Commission. We've reworded that, I think, for clarification of grammatical changes, basically. So it reads, work shall be consistent with the application and the city must approve any changes in advance. The Urban Renewal Commission must review changes that significantly affect the appearance or structural integrity of the improvements. And then we have grant awards are not transferable, again, pointing that out. Awarded grant funds, the next item. We've added, should a building owner that receives a grant award sell the property, they must submit a withdrawal letter within 15 days of closing of the property. Because otherwise, we've had that happen where the grant doesn't go through, the property changes hands, we don't hear about it. And we can't award new money until we've heard from that initial applicant that was awarded. If the new property owner would like to assume the grant project and grant award as approved by the Urban Renewal Commission, the applicant must meet with the Economic Development Department.
May I ask a question about that?
Yes.
Not only must meet with the Economic Development Department, but I would think that we would stipulate that they would have to meet all of the requirements in the original
The
grant
original grant.
application.
Okay. Okay. And then the next bullet item, criteria for non-performance. We've got the June 30th date in there, but we can eliminate that entire section per our discussion earlier. Okay. We felt on page 5, we felt the chart there was redundant because we have the checklist up front in the application. And then we've got the process that's really spelled out there in the criteria.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Polley?
No, that was fine.
That was the old one? Okay.
okay, we're done with storefront. Unless you have any more questions.
Okay.
Okay,
That was great.
great.
It's really good.
Yes, and then I would ask for a motion to endorse the changes.
I would move to approve
With the
Well,
With the corrections
with corrections.
With corrections.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was trying to get
and
that.
suggestions.
I will second that.
So it's been moved and seconded. We'll vote on it.
Okay. On to adaptive reuse.
And the vote was unanimous.
Yes.
Great. Okay, the first document you should have on that is the application itself. I should point out on both applications that we kind of changed the wording around just to call out more clearly what the application is for. Because sometimes we get storefront and adaptive reuse together, and they just look the same, and so we're just trying to make that clearer of what application they're filling out here. No changes on the first page. If we move to the second page, again, the architect information, we've added that. We eliminated the design credentials. And then we've asked for just the name, not the applicant's architect, but since the heading says architect information, we figured just the name would be fine in that heading. The next box, project summary instead of narrative. Down below that box and kind of the bold font there, disclaimer, we've eliminated the description must be included, which
Eric, if I might just a second.
yes.
So all of you have read this form and reviewed it, and I think just to speed things up, if there are concerns or questions about the form, I don't want us, Eric, to just read the form to you.
Right.
Yeah.
We've all read
Right.
your packets.
Right.
So are there any changes that you'd like to ask us specifically about?
I do have one, and that is we've eliminated credit check authorization. Is that put in somewhere else, or? It's on page 3 at the top.
Yeah, I thought that was in the application. Yes, it's in the application.
Okay,
So it's on the first page down at the bottom right.
okay,
Okay,
great.
so-
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Endorsement of that form?
Yeah, so if there are no other questions on that form,
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve with changes.
Second?
And the vote?
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you. you. This was very good,
Yep.
very informative. I'm glad you did that.
Makes it much more clear, I think.
Yes.
Thank you.
You through, Eric?
I'm done. Yeah, for that.
Okay, so I think you're back up. No drinking time.
Oh, sorry.
No drinking allowed.
In the interest of time, no drinking. All right. So we have a few storefront grant applications before you tonight. The first one is a storefront improvement grant application for 1001-1005 Main Street. That is on the corner of 10th and Main there. They are requesting $20,000, basically for two facades, the one that fronts Main Street and one that fronts 10th Street. We have evaluated the application. It must meet a 70% or better threshold. This came in at an average of 75%. They are, with this project, they're adding the transom windows. You've got the spec sheet there in your materials. They're offering a variety of colors, trying to maintain consistency with other improvements that have occurred downtown. And the awning, they are changing the awning. They've got the material and spec sheet in front of you there too in their application. So they're applying for $20,000. We recommended, according to their score, a total of $15,000. However, if they were to provide some of those additional materials to us, we feel like it could be a $20,000 award. So I think I've covered it for that one, unless you have any questions of me at this point.
No, I was really surprised. I had not paid much attention to that building until I saw this, and then I went down there this morning and thought, wow.
Well, I'd like to point out too that we've been working with Metro, and this is one of the buildings that we've identified as strategically important downtown for improvements, and so they've been awarded Metro funds for this project as well.
Great. So, do we have any questions? Commissioner Rothweiler?
Sorry, I'm gonna.
Smith?
Should.
Yes.
Well, I already made comments about murals, and we've had at least one mural disappear on Main Street with a storefront grant, and the mural that disappeared was actually painted directly on the building. I hate to see the murals go. This one is gone already, I think, and so I have a hard time. Part of me wants to say, well, I don't want to. My microphone's doing weird things. So in first look at this, my first instinct was, how do we save the mural? The only way to save the mural is to completely redo it, and that one's already been done twice.
Yeah.
So I don't want that concern to hold up this project, because I think it is one of the buildings on Main Street that still needs a lot of help, and I'm excited to see it. The interest is there to revitalize the Art Commission, to hopefully revitalize at some point a mural society. So I would, my message to the owners of this building would be, in the future, if you would consider replacing that, or at least offering a wall for a future mural on that location, if that comes about. I think, because I don't want to see, we've made a huge investment in the past in this city. With these murals, it's an important part of the character of the downtown, and each one that disappears is one step closer for them all being gone. And so that discussion is happening at the art community, kind of is having discussions about what we want to do in terms of art commission and things like that. And so my hope is that when those committees or commissions are reestablished, that we will outreach to downtown to find locations for new murals and new artwork, and I would hope that maybe the owner of this building would be open to that, because it's definitely one of the key places downtown. I think what you're doing with the building is great, and so I don't want my concerns about the mural holding that up.
Thank you. Commissioner Edgar.
I echo the importance of this corner. I think it's critical, and I think any money that's invested is good for us. But yet at the same time, this is where, if there was a higher degree of what I call authenticity in what we're doing, I see the economic gain, I see the in a sense, the beautification, but it's trying to restore historic ambiance, something that gives this building, this corner, strategic corner, more of this connection to the history of Oregon City, and we get all of the new texture. It's like if we were to step forward with elements, architectural elements that bring back more of this authenticity to me, I would be more inclined to go to spend more money or go to a higher dollar amount, and that's it's at this level where, yeah, it's good business, but it's still not bringing back our historical architecture.
Oops, there was one more, but
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
That's a good point. With the transom windows, though, I feel it is restoring some of those architectural elements. I mean, this building is a box, and I know about buildings that are a box. We have them.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of architectural elements to begin with.
Yeah.
And in restoring those transoms, it's bringing the light, kind of the interaction with the sidewalks, and then the flat awnings instead of the ones that cover everything and make it dark. So to me, this is much more inviting. It's probably the best thing that you could do with what you have. And I like how the colors coordinate with the other colors in that area. So that's what I see.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I could interject our thought process, we thought of that too when we were evaluating the application. However, we also looked at the location in a different way, because it's straddling both that downtown historical area,
Right.
as well as a higher, more industrial type use area too. Hasn't seen a lot of it or any improvements, and so this is kind of the start of that area as well. And so I think what they're trying to do here, the way we looked at it, is they're trying to achieve that balance. So.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
When we're talking about storefront, does it stop at the front wall, or
No, it's
the whole block, or the whole?
It's the part of the building that's facing the street. So we have.
So the front wall, basically.
Yeah, the front wall. Yeah, so it actually fronts Main, and it'll front 10th as well. So.
Mr. Neely.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of certain residential areas in McLaughlin neighborhoods. Some of them, the houses don't go together at all, but there are others that are really eclectic. They have different time scales in terms of the housing. They look very good. And so I don't have much problem with having something that doesn't go back that far in terms of the time scale, but that it's still a nice transition. That is, it is not an eyesore. It looks good, and the fact of the matter is the history of the downtown area spans 180 years? No, not quite that much in terms of the Main Street, but still a long period of time, and I think those different periods of history can be dealt with.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I was looking at signage. One of the questions I had, I was just thinking in my mind, just removing all the signs off that building is worth every penny of what we're doing. that was a side thought. And then when I started looking at what they're going to do with the signs, or at least what it shows here. I saw the actual name of the building, and I at first thought that the name of the site, the name of the building on the side of the building was just a clarification, not necessarily a sign. But now looking at it, I'm thinking is that actually signage?
Yes.
Okay. This is way too specific, but why is it at an angle like that? The architecture of the whole building, all the signage that you have everywhere else, the awnings, everything is horizontal. Most everything is a horizontal or vertical design on that building. So I'm not sure, and this is probably not something I should need to be getting this picky about, but I don't think a diagonal sign that huge is probably a great fit for that, and even the typeface is god awful.
So what page are you on?
Page 6 out of 42.
So the actual architecture drawings of the proposed, where it says is it Faircloth? Is that how you pronounce it? Faircloth. Where it says Faircloth building, large scale on the side of the building, that's actually going to be a sign, it's not specifying the building. It's just an actual what it's going to say on the building, I think. So I'm not convinced that that's.
I have to
great.
agree with Commissioner Smith. Have no.
But I don't think our money is paying for the sign either, so I don't know that I can say much about it. But
I have no art in my body whatsoever.
Can I just,
and when I
sorry.
saw it, it struck out at me too.
Yeah. So my name is Simone Goldfeder, and I'm one of the architects on the project and partner with Constructive Form. And I just want to clarify that these drawings are conceptual and that the graphic and the design that's represented in these drawings is just that, representational.
Right.
And so the font that is illustrated and the exact angle, whether it's acute or obtuse, or, is not necessarily representative of what will be there. So the idea is more to have a sign painting that represent I don't want to say the wrong word here, but some graphics and signage that represents the building as a whole, and instead of an individual business in terms of what's characterized as part of the signage.
And I have no problem with that.
So I just want to before.
Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
Thank you for clarifying, yes.
Excuse me. Could you fill that out for me?
Anyone else have comments? Okay.
I move to approve.
Oh, wait, Rocky, are you still on there?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Let's vote on this.
Okay.
Okay, I
All
move
right.
to approve 13
Second.
dash. Okay. Most of the time I have to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Ed's not here.
Okay.
But speak it into the record, though. Speak the motion
Yes.
into the record, please.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay. 13-456 storefront improvement grant for 1001 to 1005 Main Street.
Second.
Discussion. You've indicated the possibility of awarding additional amount of money.
Right.
Are we approving then the capability of the staff making that decision? And that's a question.
Yes, with the way that motion was stated, yes. So you give us the flexibility once we receive that information.
Just want to be clear.
That's good.
So we call for the vote?
Vote is approved unanimously.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Okay, Eric again.
Okay. Next before you is a storefront grant application for 722 Main Street. The Commission previously awarded a grant to 722 Main Street for Phase 1 of this facade project. This is the facade that's facing Main Street. This application is for the facade that's facing 8th Street on 722 Main. With this project, again, it is Phase 2. They are restoring this facade to its almost original historical character. The project would remove the old awnings, demolish the blocked end openings on the street level, and install windows. It would add a new entrance creating that additional pedestrian activity. Refurbish the second floor windows and restore the moldings and trims to like new condition. It would reside the facade similar to the original and add a cornice to the roof line to match the original. And the base would be concreted and repainted. So after evaluation of this application, and due to its authentic, efforts, it achieved an 85% rating. I believe that's what we had, which equates to an amount of $33,600. The applicant was applying for $40,000 for this grant.
Okay, do we have any, are you ready for questions?
I'm ready. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any comments or questions? Commissioner Neely?
Yeah, I'm happy. I was hoping we go around the corner, and we have. That's
Yeah.
well, assuming we won't vote on it.
Okay, I go thumbs up too.
Great.
Okay, I call for, let's vote.
So we've turned the
Do
corner
it.
now.
We turned the corner, let's vote.
Do it.
Okay, we need a motion?
I move to approve 13-458 storefront improvement grant for 722 Main Street, 8th Street facade.
Second.
And the vote?
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
the motion
Great.
approved unanimously.
Great,
Great. Okay.
thank you.
And I've got one more.
And I've got a question.
Okay. All right. So, do you have a question now, or do you want me to go?
Well, I kind of addressed it earlier, the tax issue.
You have to refresh my memory.
The grant application.
Yeah,
Property tax.
right.
It seems like they're quite a ways behind.
Right. So that will be before any award is actually paid out. That will be reconciled.
Okay.
That will have to be reconciled.
It'll have to be brought current.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. So this application is for a storefront improvement grant for 622 and 624 Main Street. That's both the Main Street facade and the 7th Street facade. It's right at the end of the bridge there. This application received an average score of 89%.
Why so low?
Well, that was
That's only one story. I mean, that's only one story. I mean, we're not gonna. But so we actually let's see here. The applicant is applying for $40,000. We would recommend approval in that amount based on confirmation that Clackamas County property taxes are current and confirmation of a 1-to-1 match. So I think there is an issue where the private match isn't all the way there yet, but they're working on getting the rest of that match. And so once we receive that confirmation, we would recommend award $40,000. Yes, right.
I have a clarification questions for myself. On the other application, they were asking for 40, they got 85%, so we gave them 85%.
Right.
On this one, they're asking for 40, they got 89, so why aren't we giving them 89%?
Well, that is a. I'm going to have to go back and look at our comments because some of it's based on the comments that we make, like if we need additional information, or. Honest, I don't have that in front of me.
Okay. I mean, I think you have the leeway to do that. I just.
Yeah, let me. If you give me just a second, I can go back and look at the evaluation sheet.
Commissioner Pauly?
Yes, I think this project's very exciting. I like how it's restoring again those transom windows, something that's very indicative of buildings down there. And then the architectural details that it does have or suggest are the panels, and it's bringing those back, and just the openness of it. And there's a lot of things that happened in the 70s with that paneling and stuff, not so good anymore.
Yeah.
So that's really
Was it good then?
They must have thought it was. Somebody thought it was, but I think this really opens that up, and that's kind of the entrance into our city when you come across the bridge.
Yeah.
So I think this
Yeah.
building's really
Yeah,
important.
it's very important.
So, and I think they've done a good job with the architecture, doing what they can do.
We're
Yeah.
very.
And the butcher paper will be gone.
Yes.
So to answer your question, Kathy, what we saw this project as a recreation of a building and not really a restoration.
Right.
And so that was kind of our thought process
Okay.
and bringing it down a little bit because, we do like to award the restoration. However, there's not much that they can work with
Right.
on this building. The top half of it burned down so many years ago.
Are they going to go
And-
back to the old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we gave it what we thought was a fair.
Okay, thank you.
award.
But the blade signs too, I think, are a big improvement because it's going back again to what it used to be before it was the, thing where you just plop
Right.
the sign up on the building. So.
Yep.
What's important here is this is such a massive step forward
Oh, yeah.
on that corner that, this is where the massive effect of it is so immense that it overwhelms, because this is, what it is right now is really, I won't use all the adjectives.
Well, this is a strategically identified location, and this is one that Metro's been working with on.
Yes.
And it really is, and I think what you might be looking for, Paul, is it's a gateway.
Oh, it is,
Yes.
absolutely.
So,
I move for approval.
So are you making a motion?
Yes, I make a motion, excuse me,
Go on the floor.
on the floor.
I will second that.
Okay.
Whoops, you have to
But
say
you
it.
have to read it into
To
the
approve, I move to approve 13457 storefront grant for 722 and, 622 and 624 Main Street.
Second, let's call for the vote.
Passes unanimously.
That was great.
Yay.
That's great.
Very good.
now I'm done.
Excited.
Yes.
Okay, you done now?
I'm done.
Why don't you just keep going?
Oh, well.
You've got 5 minutes.
Move to approve minutes from
Good.
June 19th.
Second.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, future agenda items. Does anyone have any items they'd like to bring up? If they don't, I do. And I'm not sure if this needs to be put into our goals and objectives, or if it's something we could begin the discussion about. And that is urban renewal funds being used to supplement SDCs on buildings that are, or projects in the urban renewal district.
You can use urban renewal funds for that type of thing. You can establish like a loan program or a reimbursement type program based on performance. SDC reimbursement,
Okay.
that's common practice in urban renewal.
Okay, I didn't know
zones.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Is that something that we make everybody aware of?
We would have to establish that as part of our urban renewal plan. That would have to be something that's put in the plan.
It seems like there'd
is-
have to be criteria that we'd want to use.
You'd have to
Right.
you'd have to
Yeah.
establish criteria. You'd have to have a resolution putting it into the plan.
Yeah.
So right now, the storefront grant and the adaptive reuse grants are explicitly called out in the plan.
Mhm.
And so you would have, if you wanted to do something with SDC reimbursement or a loan program or revolving loan program for SDCs, something like that, you would have to pass a resolution and
Right.
put it in there.
Okay,
Right.
so I guess my
So is
question
that what
is,
you're
that's
looking
what I'm
for?
looking for.
That's what you want to look for. Okay.
Well, I'd like to have a discussion.
Yeah, that's what I mean, let's,
Okay.
Yeah,
it's just
we'll
time
put
to
that
start the
Yeah,
discussion.
it needs to be a work session, probably.
Okay. Great.
Anything else?
City manager?
Nothing new to report.
Okay, we're adjourned. If Eric's finished.